The guitar was tough because that was completely alien to me. I had never picked up a guitar before, and not that I'd sang a whole lot before, but at least I'm familiar with the instrument of the voice. I had about 6 months to kind of hold it with a lot of confidence. That was keeping me up at night.
He said, well, when I was speaking to Bruce, I went, sorry, but he knows who I am. He went, yeah, Bruce Springsteen knows me. And he was like, yeah, so it blew my mind.
There is no better way to introduce a conversation about Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, than to play Born to Run. Jeremy Allen White is in the studio, who plays Bruce Springsteen. Hello, Jeremy, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks
Very
for
nice
having
to
me.
see you. Stephen Graham plays his dad. Hello, Stephen, how are you?
Hello, Simon. Oh, Bruce, great to see you.
Bruce Springsteen's dad?
I know, yeah, can't believe it myself.
How about that? Anyway, I love the film. Had an absolutely fantastic time. Had a blast watching it. The first time we see you, Jeremy, so we've seen the young Bruce Springsteen as a boy, and then we see you on stage playing Born to Run. As an introduction for the fans, that is some moment. What was it like to be on stage with a band singing Born to Run, being Bruce Springsteen?
Hopefully as an actor, you get to a set and you can kind of use your imagination and you can kind of force a delusional kind of like moment where you trick yourself, you're in a different environment, something else is going on, the circumstances are different. There were a few cases on this film where I didn't have to use very much imagination, and that was one of them. Singing Born to Run, this big arena in New Jersey, real musicians all around me. I'm the only pretender. New Jersey folks as the background actors who all love Bruce Springsteen very much. Bruce was there that day, introduced me, got the crowd all warmed up. And then I just had to go out on stage and really try to exhaust myself as Bruce does, and that was easy. That didn't take very long.
Okay. As a nerve-shredding experience goes, you're in New Jersey, Bruce is in the building, and then you have to go on and be Bruce?
That's right. Yeah.
It's a baptism of fire, I think they call it.
Yeah.
It is absolutely. The first words that I wrote down when I came out of the screening was "strike the pose," which I know is a Madonna line, but everyone knows, even though they might not have thought about it, the way Bruce stands, particularly the way he stands at the microphone and the way he leans into the microphone. And you had that pose absolutely 100%. Can you put it into words what you are doing at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a whole lot of footage on Bruce and saw that, but that happens naturally. I think what I know is Bruce gives himself fully over to the music, to the audience. And so that kind of like lean, I don't think he was like finding that stylish or comfortable or any of that. I think that's something that naturally happens when you're kind of giving yourself over to something else. And I think that's what Bruce does every time. And so that's that's what I was trying to do as well.
What was the toughest bit? The stance, the voice, the guitar, the harmonica, what?
Well, the guitar was the guitar was tough because that was completely alien to me. I had never picked up a guitar before, and not that I'd sang a whole lot before, but at least I'm familiar with the instrument of the voice. The guitar was completely alien. I had about 6 months, 7 months to kind of hold it with a lot of confidence. That was the hardest bit. That was keeping me up at night. Yeah.
Okay, Stephen, how did you get to be Bruce's dad? How did you get that gig? Because it's a fascinating part to play.
Thank you very much. It was a phone call from Scott Cooper, who's the director, who's our wonderful director. Me and Scott were he tried to get me on a job a while ago, Black Mass it was, but unfortunately the dates didn't work. So there was that, we always wanted to work together. And he just phoned me up and he said, look, I've wrote this script. And I was like, okay. And he explained what it was. And he said, it's only a small role, but I've written it with you in mind. And, I really love you to have a look at it and see what you think. And I was like, no, I'm in. And he's like, well, you haven't read the script. I went, I don't have to. When I'm in. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And then he said to me, well, when I was speaking to Bruce, I went, sorry, but he knows who I am. He went, yeah. And I was like, Bruce Springsteen knows me. And he was like, yeah. So it blew my mind. I'm a huge fan of this wonderful man's. Adolphe put me onto him, where Adolphe introduced me to Shameless a good while ago. And he said, Dad, you got to watch this. It's brilliant. He said, and this fella's absolutely fantastic. So I watched it and he was magnificent. So I'm a huge fan of his. So I mean, I think he's one of the finest actors of his generation. He really reminds me of a young Al Pacino with his swagger and his presence and what he brings to the role and his character. And what you were saying about he embodies the whole role completely. Do you know what I mean? He immerses himself in it. As actors, we're chameleons. I'm a bit of a magpie as well myself. I nick little things from here and there. But to work with this young man was absolutely phenomenal. It was a wonderful experience, and it was there's a mutual respect for each other, and it was just a real honor to be a part of.
And Douglas Springsteen is a complicated man. How would you describe his relationship with Bruce?
His relationship with Bruce was very fractured. Douglas himself was an alcoholic, and he was a manic depressive, which kind of makes you go, oh, nice one, when Scott says, you're the only person I thought of to play this role when I was writing it. He said some rather nice things, about bringing the gravitas and things like that. So it was just looking at the story and looking how I can be a part of that telling of this tale, which is ultimately this wonderful young man and growing up, and how he come to terms with his own relationship with his father. In many respects, as Mel said, mine was like a short film in its own, because I had the flashback stuff, which was wonderful, because little Matthew, who's beautiful, and he's wonderful, isn't he?
Yeah. Playing the child.
Yeah, young Bruce, playing Bruce as a young boy, and that he's like a kid from one of those. He looks like he's just stepped out of Angels with Dirty Faces, and he's got this beautiful presence and this strong little voice, and so mine was very much a little film with him as well. And the wonderful actress who played my wife and his mother, Abby, who's phenomenal. She's outstanding. So we had this beautiful little contained short film that we made, and it was really wonderful and a beautiful experience. And then luckily enough, I had, those two beautiful scenes that I shared with Jeremy at the end. And it was just that kind of creating the journey of a man who is not in touch with his own emotions, do you know what I mean? Who's suffering from that horrific kind of disease and that illness of what he's going through, that depression, but also that kind of spiritual malady that gets broken by Bruce. Because Bruce learns and has the empathy for his father at the end, and that's when Bruce makes the amends with his dad, and they come together. Do you know what I mean? So Bruce is the one that's clearing the wreckage of his past.
You've brought up the subject of manic depression, which his father suffered from. Yeah. This isn't the film that I thought it was going to be, because it is, as much as anything, a study in depression and the effect that it can have on absolutely anybody, and in this case, obviously, the effect that it has on Bruce. Quite late on in the film, Jeremy Strong, who plays John Landau, your manager, I still think of him as Kendall Roy for most of the time, but anyway, when Bruce is at a really low ebb, he puts on a cassette of a Sam Cooke song. I stayed to the end of the credits to make sure I worked out what the song was. It's obviously Sam Cooke, but I didn't know the song. It is incredibly powerful. Can you just tell us about that song, and did that actually happen?
We did the scene as written there, but the evening before, Jeremy Strong called Bruce and said, if you were going to try to save somebody's life, what song would you play? Bruce thought about it for a couple hours, and he texts Jeremy Strong, it's going to be Sam Cooke's Last Mile the Way. And Jeremy came to set that day. He said, I'd like to try something. He told Scott what he was going to do. He told the sound department what he was going to do. He asked me, do you want to know what I'm going to do? I said no. And so I just got to be there, present with Jeremy, playing John Landau, and we got to just listen, and I got to discover that.
A song I'm not sure I was aware of before I saw it in your film. Did you know the song?
Yeah, Sam Cooke's like top for me, and played a lot of Sam Cooke in the house growing up. Yeah.
Okay, Stephen, did you know the song?
I didn't know the song.
Thank heavens for that.
So there's that beautiful moment as well of hearing that for the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't really know a lot of Bruce, if I'm very honest. Do you know what I mean? Personally, because that wasn't the kind of music that I grew up with. Mine was more Bob Marley, and it's Otis Redding and all of that kind of stuff, and so I didn't really have a lot of Bruce in my life, but my uncle Joey was a big Bruce fan, so I heard it through him. When I got to hear Nebraska for that very first time, it was wonderful having all that knowledge of the experience of what Bruce was going through while he made that album.
I was just thinking about this conversation, that exactly in the way in your film, it's clearly the radio has a problem with Nebraska. That is the context of where we are in this film. It's the recording of that particular album. Just explain it, Jeremy, if you would, just a little bit about why it's that album and what that reveals to us about Bruce.
You're meeting Bruce at this period after he's made The River, and he's toured The River, which was his biggest kind of record to date at that point, and his biggest tour to date. The expectation of kind of the record label and the public is to bring more of that sound. But during this period instead, Bruce becomes kind of a recluse and goes and rents this house in Colts Neck and really just starts making some demo tracks by himself, for the most part on a cassette, and he just needs to get something out of him. And he captures something really beautiful, and then there's a real process of getting that onto the record and being able to deliver the sort of like sound and truth of the record that he he wants people to hear. But yeah, the record of Nebraska was born out of like I think ideas, and really Bruce didn't know what he had at that time. I guess he didn't know what he was making yet.
We were talking about the pose and becoming Bruce. If I've got this right, at elementary school you were a dancer.
Yeah.
You did ballet and jazz
Yeah.
and tap. Does that help, the fact that you have that kind of, you're not just an actor, but also you can be a dancer in terms of striking the pose?
I did that when I was young. I did that from like 8 to 12 or 13. And what you do get, and especially at that age, and it's the same with sports and things, but you get an incredible awareness of your body in space. And I find that sort of awareness to be a helpful kind of tool in performance and in acting generally. I think, of course, in terms of Bruce Springsteen, he's very physical and a performer himself. But yeah, I find that sort of like body awareness in space to be something that's helpful kind of across the board. Yeah.
Have you become a Bruce fan now, Stephen?
Yeah, slowly.
A slow process?
Yeah, well, it's taken my time, isn't it?
Was there any point in the course of the making of this film, Stephen, that you asked Jeremy to rustle up a pasta for you?
No, I didn't. I should have, shouldn't I? I should have. But I know he's probably like me and he's not really a good cook. But he can blag being a great cook, do you know what I mean?
Are you a good cook?
I'm all right. I can do very few things very well.
Probably make a bolognese, yeah, exactly.
Okay, is the bear coming back?
Yeah, we're going to do another one, yeah.
Okay. Steve, I just need to say before you go, Stephen, congratulations. You know, you've delivered the TV show of the year,
Thank you.
Adolescence, which was just the talk everywhere, and it was the talk in America, wasn't it, Jeremy? I mean, it was...
Absolutely.
And you won all the Emmys. You must be so extraordinarily proud of that. Is there anything that you're going to carry forward from that into another show? Are you going to do another show like that? Do we find out what happened to some of those characters?
I think that particular story is finished. And we may well at some point further down the line, maybe in a couple of years, sit around a table and come up with another possibility of an idea for something else. But I think as far as that story has gone, it's been told. Do you know what I mean? Personally.
Stephen Graham, Jeremy Allen White, thank you so much for coming in. It was an absolute pleasure, and the film is a delight.
Thank you very much,
Thanks for having
Simon.
us.
Thank you very much.